It seems the modern era of news, of political and non political news, has evolved to an industry of simple entertainment, no different than reality TV. This has become evident too. It is certainly far from a partisan take, and thus each side, each perspective is guilty of this behavior. This ever changing news cycle has taken our nation and our minds hostage. It capitalizes and elaborates on the increasingly short attention spans that our digital world has created, and in every way it divides and manipulates the population. In this episode, I will firstly address my personal opinions on the ever changing news cycle, particularly highlighting the societal effects of such. Then, both Gabe and I will shift perspectives to an objective biblical principle, hoping to further express the detrimental effects of these patterns in an unopinionated manner. To begin, it is crucial I lay a foundation expressing what exactly this issue is. Today, the lifespan of even a major story rarely surpasses a time period of 7 days. The largest stories fade from relevance in mere weeks, with most attention being concentrated within an even shorter period of time, typically only 72 hours. Lesser stories struggle to stay relevant for even 24 hours, fading nearly instantly into whatever other story's shadow may cover it. These claims originate from Google Trends, Schema, and Axos, proving again this issue to be far from partisan. With this established foundation, let's shift to real-world examples. Firstly, let's start with a story many will remember, the Hunter Biden laptop story. When was the last time anyone heard of this story? It was massive news when it originated, yet it seems to have faded just as quickly as it exploded. New news pushed this story from relevance within a week, with coverage spiking a few years later when new information was released, but again it faded from relevance just as fast as it exploded. On the other side, you have stories such as the Paul Pelosi attack, which dominated the news for about 72 hours before fading to other stories. Furthermore, you have stories such as the 2018 Hawaii false missile alert, which terrified the local population. It led them to believe their lives would end in a nuclear fallout, yet this story and discussions of this story disappeared within a day or two. You have stories such as the many mass shootings or terrorist attacks and threats that grab attention and spark outrage for no more than a week. Regardless of political framing, even the largest and most important stories fade from mainstream relevance within mere days. The societal effects of this lack of concern or true opinion or principle is so obvious. Children can be shot in the hallways of their school, or an entire state can be misled into foreseeing their inevitable evaporation, and still it is forgotten in a few days. Mainstream news has led Americans down a path of indifference and desensitization, nearly forcing them to move on from key issues in favor of what is new, while also forcing the same opinions through the circulation of generic, politically aligned talking points. Mainstream news has quite literally become more of a collection of clashing reality TV stars than it is actual news. It has become a platform where the murder of a child is shadowed by a rude remark made by the president, or by the newest fashion trend, or by the Grammys. These patterns of news have eroded the foundation of America. They have eroded every principle worth defending because these patterns represent the opposite of what America was founded upon, and what we should strive to be. These patterns leave Americans without a true opinion. They leave them with no idea of what is actually happening. Rather, Americans are left with the opinion of a news anchor that prospers more off the mastering of a wow factor than of actual news or insight. This systemic manipulation of Americans is incredibly dangerous, as so many rely on news from news companies. And you'd think that that expectation is reasonable, but it has become incredibly clear that it no longer is. Influencers, news outlets, politicians, celebrities, they have all overwhelmingly committed to a strategy of divide and conquer. They capitalize on the shortening attention spans that they and their platforms have created, and they use it to divide, to spread and overwhelmingly highlight and misrepresent the evil of society, using it not to inform the population of what has unfortunately happened, but instead using it to convince the population of a false reality. It is crucial Americans begin once more to have a real opinion, to have inalienable principles that regardless of what is in the news they stand by. For sand that blows whichever way as the wind cannot build a house, yet steel that maintains form can build a city. Today, the ever-changing news cycle promotes an America of sand and it itself as the wind. But Americas cannot continue to blow whichever direction they are told anytime a new story emerges. Americans must dig and lay a foundation of personal opinion and principle. With that being said, I encourage you each to think critically, to find your inalienable principles and to stand beside them. I further encourage you each to view the full third episode of the Coallegiance on Air podcast presented by the Coallegiance.in.Christ organization to see an unopinionated and objective biblical stance regarding the issues of the ever-changing news cycle. To conclude, I leave you with the words of Paul. Finally, brethren, farewell. Become complete. Be of good comfort, be of one mind, live in peace, and the God of love and peace will be with you.